Awesome. So are we waiting for any more people on the Synack side?
Yeah, Jeremiah should be coming, as well as Vitthal and someone else, I think, actually.
Awesome. Okay. So for those of you who are currently in the audience, thank you for joining us. So sorry about my IT issues. They're resolved. So we're going to keep this pretty casual as a result of that. This is an AMA. This is an opportunity to, and we're calling this Red Table. So basically the plan here is that you can ask us anything you want. It's an AMA style sort of geek out session, nerd out session with amazing hackers over at Synack. So why don't we do this? I guess while we wait for a couple of your colleagues, Ryan, Ozgur, Jeremiah, why don't we just do some introductions? Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself to people that don't know who you
are? Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Ryan Rutan. I run the Synack Red Team. I'm the director of the community there. My background is actually like a weird wired rabbit's nest of things, going from all the way down to early stage hacker to enterprise developer, architect, integrator, consultant, community person, developer evangelism, and now kind of bringing that all together and running a red team. And my focus has always been about integrations and building and kind of just chewing through APIs as much as possible. And so for me right now, I'm just bringing about 20 years of technology and API experience and looking to kind of earn and grow my spurs over the next year for API security and kind of dive deeper there. So should be fun.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Ozgur.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
My name's Ozgur. I am working as a full-time bug bounty hunter at the moment, and most of the times in the Synack Red Team for the last 5 years. And before that, I had offensive security consultant job for the last 4 years. Currently holding the top 5 in the all-time leaderboard in the Synack, as well as the SRT of the year and Synack champion for the SRT of the year for the last year and SRT champion for the last 3 years.
Oh my God. So a good guy to know. That's awesome. Welcome to the party, Ozgur. Thanks for joining us, man. It's good to meet you. I always love meeting new Synack folks. So Jeremiah, man, we've known each other for a minute. How are you doing?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. And you know what? I don't know if you saw the opening banner image that I created for this, but it's Joker, and so like there's this whole creepy carnival thing, and the red striped wallpaper in your background just makes it perfect.
It just touches it off, does it?
You just need some suspenders and like a curly cute mustache, and you're good.
That's
to go.
funny.
Exactly.
I've often said, like, anytime I'm on a call and somebody mentions something, I'm like, welcome to my circus.
Exactly. So, well, tell people who you are, Jeremiah.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody, my name is Jeremiah. My background includes time in the Marine Corps, network penetration testing, red team operations, wargaming, threat modeling. In addition, I hold a ham radio operator's license, so Wi-Fi hacking's fun.
What?
I hold a
I didn't
class
know you were a ham radio guy.
Yeah. I've actually got it in the drawer down below. I hold a Class A CDL, so I'm a truck driver too, but I don't drive trucks. I am also a helicopter pilot. So yeah, I fly helicopters.
Oh my God.
And I'm active in the cybersecurity community through various group initiatives like InfraGuard, Nova Hackers, B-Sides, DEF CON, Black Hat, all that fun stuff. And I too host a podcast very similar to like you. It's called We're In. And if you would like to hear the episode where Alissa Knight blows stuff up, come and check it out.
Awesome, Jeremiah. We got a good little panel here of people. I'm excited. So I guess we'll wait a little bit longer for your team to arrive, but we'll go and get started. So I was going to start out with what I titled "I Love Your Swagger." So everyone, I would love it if each one of you would just kind of provide your different perspectives on how you approach API penetration testing. Ryan, Ozgur, Jeremiah, like what is like, okay, so you've been brought in on an engagement. You're about to just tear apart an API from cradle to grave. What is your modus operandi on approaching that pen test? And we'll go clockwise. So Ryan, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So again, this is something that I've been doing in theory and practicum, not as a paid person just yet. But one of the things I always approach from is I lean into my strength, which is the developer side. So the first thing I try to do is look at the implementation of the API, determine what frameworks are they using. You know, if it's a Java-based, PHP, whatever, that gives me an idea. If it's Java, then that really goes into my sweet spot because that's kind of where I spent most of my career doing that. Once I get that element going in, again, I try to understand again a little bit more about the technology going into it. So what's nice about most of the way people still don't like when you deal with a company that actually deploys things with microservices where everything's insulated and containerized. It's really, really nice, but most of the sites that you see don't do that. It's all bundled into this monolithic app. It's just like some subcontext in there. When you have that, that means the API piece really is just sitting on top of a powder keg of opportunity. So again, like the API, you can kind of go in the other way. So if I can pivot to another way, that's another easy way to go. But once I go in from the API side, if I have the ability to find some sort of enumeration or API information, some in paths, whatever, I'll look and see if I can find a GitHub repo or something like that that has similar endpoints or potentially even the source code, as we've seen in some cases, to try to say, hey, can I just actually peek behind the curtains, if you will, enumerating common things. I forget the list that I have. I've got about 5 or 6 lists that I've run through, and I concatenate them all into some scripts. But again, it's if I don't have any kind of enumerated elements already, like open box enumerated elements, I'll actually go through, try to find endpoints, common endpoints, like, some of like the Swagger pieces, or just in general, any of the common endpoints that exist for common frameworks, where if I think it might be an API service that I'm familiar with, look for those common endpoints to try to figure out, okay, here's some common points from there. The rest of it at that point is simply enumerating the individual paths, trying to find parameters using the same, various lists. And
mutating parameters, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And then once you find a parameter, then just trying to pile stuff into it and see what happens. Get it to break.
So you loosely kind of follow the penetration testing execution standard kind of thing. I'm sure Ozgur, you have your own kind of secret sauce here too, but kind of start out with reconnaissance and trying to find all the endpoints and how does the mobile app work and is it pinned? Maybe seeing what you can extract from there, and then moving on to exploitation. But just kind of following that same path of getting to know the API and what's out there, and then moving forward with post-exploitation stuff.
Yeah, I like to know as much as I can, as much as possible.
Yeah. Ozgur, what do you do? What's Oscar's guide to hacking that API? What's your step-by-step?
Well, when anyone says API, I got 2 things in my mind. Well, one is like the Ryan mentioned, the API is used for a web application or mobile application. The second, APIs are actually used services which are like from the third parties, such as if you are a web application, if you show a map using Google Maps API is also in the context of the API security, in my opinion. For the first one, actually, when testing in the APIs, as you know, we are looking nearly in the server-side issues rather than the client-side issues, because like API is working directly within the requests. However, from my experience, I see that if I am firstly testing an application, of course, the recon stage is similar, but from what I see, like the old API endpoints, like for example, if the APIs has several versions such as V1, V2, V3,
checking different paths, version paths.
Yeah. If you see like V3 users or V5 sessions, it means that APIs have several different versions. And from my experience, I see that the first APIs written are most vulnerable ones, or the last ones, because like when a developer develops an application, if the application is old, for example, like maybe 10 years old, the security perspective is not same as the today. So most of the security issues could be lost in the old APIs. On another thing, actually, from time to time, developers are like making some updates in the APIs, but mostly in the last ones, if it is such as emergency issue. For example, a customer wants a feature as soon as possible, so the developer makes the updates without going the security cycle. So the last APIs, checking the last APIs also makes lots of different issues too.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, that's a good point. It's really just, discovery, what's out there, what can you go after? I didn't even think about trying the different API version paths. That's a great point. Jeremiah, what's your magic sauce, man?
I think, for the most part, we all kind of have a very similar methodology. It starts with reconnaissance. It starts with figuring out what's there. Know what you don't know. And then once you figure that out, you begin to incrementally start messing with things. Can I send binary? Can I send alpha? Can I send specific things? Can I change the versioning information like Ozgur just spoke about? In that process, how is it communicating with the backend? Is it using SOAP? Is it using REST? Is it using XML? How's it communicating? Once we figure that out, then we can begin to formulate our approach to attacking it. We can adjust things from our proxies that we utilize, or you can approach it from, as you like to say, a person in the middle perspective. And once you start beginning to flesh that stuff out, then it's about kind of fuzzing things. And once you go through and fuzz stuff to figure out all the different parameters, and you've mapped out all the different endpoints, and you've looked at all the research over specific versioning information, I guarantee it's going to leak some versioning information. Once you figure that out somewhere, or it's going to be hard coded. Like, are there any hard coded keys in places that you can take advantage of? Is it passing that stuff in transit? Is the communication in transit encrypted or not? So we're all doing these very similar things. And from there, you can begin to mess with the logic and input and see how the backend server is going to respond to those things. And then hopefully you get adverse reactions. And most often, according to statistics that I went over in an earlier talk, you do.
Yeah, and so that's a good point, Jeremiah. From my perspective, the way I started a penetration test is, so when I first got into API penetration testing, I focused on mobile APIs, right? So I got very familiar with, starting out with the mobile app, right? Grabbing the mobile app, whether it's iOS or Android. I preferred Android. As Jeremiah mentioned, initially starting with a woman in the middle attack or something, like using Minim proxy or, Burp Suite, and then just inspecting the traffic, right? Understanding how the app is talking to the backend API, and then taking those and feeding those, taking those individual requests and manipulating them, as Ryan mentioned, mutating different parameters, and basically starting out with getting to know the app, like Jeremiah said, pushing every button in the app, like what does it do? And then taking that, and you guys are going to laugh at me, but I'll paste each and every button and each and every request into a spreadsheet. And so I have like this massive spreadsheet of everything that every button and every mobile app, everything that the mobile app can do. Because it's like, for me as a hacker, and feel free to disagree with me here, but for me as a hacker, I feel like hacking is really just nothing more than sending stimulus that the developer didn't expect to receive. That's all hacking is to me, right?
Thinking differently from a puzzle perspective, right?
Yeah, from the normal average user. So like, did the developer account for this? And I can't hack something if I don't know how it works. So I think Ozgur alluded to this. Just understanding how it works, getting at like figuring out how it ticks, And then, so once I've got my spreadsheet of all my API requests, everything that the mobile app can do, then I will then fuzz, as Jeremiah said, fuzz or manually manipulate the parameters, look around for different directories and paths, as Ozgur mentioned. And then, and I don't know about you guys, but it wasn't until just recently when I started hacking web APIs. And so so when I first started out, it was like, oh, making sure okay, is it pinned? Okay, if the mobile app is doing certificate pinning, then I'll load up Frida and I'll try and evade it with Frida. But this was kind of more recently got into my first foray into hacking web APIs, where your client, of course, you don't have the luxury of having a mobile app. You've got this web API and you're hitting it from a web page. And I was thinking okay, well, what's the tools there? And realizing that Burp Suite has this awesome little button where it'll load Chromium for you and then send all that traffic from Chromium into Burp Suite for replay. I love that. And then when I found that, I jumped up and down.
I can't tell you how long I took when I first was doing some mobile application testing, trying to figure out a way to take that APK, plug it into my emulator, and have that emulator then cross-communicate with Burp to show me, because I wanted to work with Burp.
Yeah, and there's actually it's funny that you bring this up, because it got me. And then I realized, why am I not seeing these packets in minim proxy? And I realized you have to actually pass a certain parameter, I think, to emulator and give it the IP address and port number for the emulator to send the traffic out. But
speaking of PIDAs.
Oh yeah, exactly. Ozgur, Ryan, I don't know if you guys have a certain methodology for mobile API pen testing or think that. We'll get into the tools, but if there's anything else you want to add on the mobile API testing or web API testing.
Ryan, you're muted.
Oh, Ryan, you're muted.
You're muted. Yeah.
I was saying, I'm more of a web person myself. That's where I've got my roots. Yeah. So mobile stuff, like I said, I usually will. The biggest thing I'll do for mobile is I will put some kind of a network listener on there and look at the traffic going out, and then I'll convert that to the web and try to simulate it with either Postman or Burp or whatever. I like writing a lot of custom scripts, so that's also where I kind of sit in.
Yeah, you got me beat there. I'm not a scripter. I'm a self-professed non-programmer. So I'm sure Ozgur, you're a developer as well. But yeah, no, I'm all about rocking out Burp Suite, and yeah, I'm not doing anything in Python or anything at the command line or scripting. But much respect to you, Ryan, on that, because I could never do it. So. Ozgur, anything on your side?
In addition,
that you wanted to add.
Yeah. In addition to your comment, pushing all the buttons in the mobile application, I also try to push buttons which doesn't exist in that page that I see. Because the mobile applications most of the times have different kind of profiles. If you have just one user profile, if you're such as the testing in the production, let's call it the mobile application, like internet banking, mobile banking application. Right. If you just have the standard user as a user in the testing, you are missing all of the vulnerabilities, such as for the corporate users, or if the application has another user interface for the admins or the any other else. So looking for the buttons which you cannot push from just that you see is also a good methodology for the mobile apps.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I'm sure this is a great segue into my next question, and I'm sure all of you guys have seen the YouTube videos, what's in my pocket, what's in my gear bag. So I'm going to ask that question. What's in your guys' pocket? What's in your API pen testing toolkit? Jeremiah, we'll start with you. What's in your API pen testing toolkit? And by the way, I don't know if you guys have heard of David Sopas, but he gave a great tool on his Mind API diagram and talked about some great tools. Ryan talked about some great tools. But Jeremiah, yeah, what's in your bag, man?
So I utilize Burp a lot for a number of aspects. I like the intruder functionality. There's a lot of plugins. Yeah. There's a lot of flexibility that you can utilize. There's various decoders that you can already kind of plug in, right? So whereas before, I primarily utilize, like you can utilize like Zap if you don't want to use Burp. So application proxy. And I think that's what it is, Zap. But it's from
Zap,
OWASP.
OWASP,
and that's
yeah.
So that's primarily from web application testing stuff. Other things, you can take you want to utilize Wireshark in some instances to see how things are communicating across the board. You can use you can utilize, instead of that, you could potentially try to take advantage of Scapy and or it's skipping my mind right now, but or sort of Python stuff that you can hook into.
Well, you mentioned fuzzers too.
Yes,
I think I've heard you talk about Kite Runner. I love Kite Runner. But FFUF is another good one. Definitely. Ozgur, what about you, man? What's in your bag?
I actually use nearly all of the time just the Burp Suite, and
I figured you guys said. Jeremiah's like, I pretty much don't leave Burp Suite. Ozgur's like, I love it. I don't leave Burp Suite. So it's the perfect Swiss Army knife, isn't it? It's got all these different modules.
Yeah, you don't need anything else if you use the Burp Suite correctly.
That's a good point. And Ozgur, one of the things that I think Ryan, I got this from Ryan's presentation, was I've never used Burp Suite extensions before. So, that's going to be a big change for me. And you make a good point, Ozgur. Like Burp Suite natively has so many cool tools, and then you can even extend Burp Suite further with these extensions. So I'm looking forward to playing with some of these Burp Suite extensions that I learned about in this conference.
Actually, the best thing about the Burp Suite is you can also write your extensions.
You can write your own.
Yeah. Also, some extensions exist, for example, like the Burp's active scan and passive scan profiles. You can create the profiles on your own site within some already existing extensions, which is really good, especially for the passive scans that you are just instead of manually analyzing the responses within the regular expressions, you can easily find out the information that you are looking for.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we have some people bringing up in chat some other ideas like MobSF, Mobile Security Framework. For sure, that's like step one for me. Extract that APK file off the Android device, throw it into MobSF, have it decode it, bring it back to source code, and then searching for those hard-coded keys and tokens. Gotta love that. So for sure, I love MobSF.
Postman reference.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm obsessed with Postman. I love Postman. Taking all those URIs when I store them in the spreadsheet, will recreate those API requests in Postman, and that's where I'll do my actual parameter manipulations.
I like using instead of Postman, very similar. I like using Intruder instead of Postman through
Intruder is good. I would, and then if I can capture the API request and then send it to Repeater in Burp Suite, I'm sure you and Ozgur and Ryan feel the same way. It's like you can just modify the request in Repeater and then not even have to leave Burp Suite. So Postman's a great tool. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a hacking tool. Postman's a great API client for our use as well. Ryan, what about you? What's in your tool bag, mister?
Well, the bag is, filled with a lot of similar tools that have been mentioned. But from my perspective, the couple of things that I do that's a little bit different is I definitely approach it from a developer perspective. So a lot of things I do, we'll go register, look for platforms that have, if you could register client or agents or extensions. So I use things like ngrok, which is actually a really slick tool to just basically have a reverse callback. So if I'm going through any custom OAuth process, I can actually set myself up as an agent to follow that process and actually intercept that traffic and actually kind of do and run my own local machine servers to kind of receive and manipulate that. And so that's one piece that I would say Burp is really great. I would say that I agree 100% with everything's been said around it. If you use it right, you shouldn't have to leave it. Most of the times when I'm playing around on things, I'm not on my core laptop. And so as a result of that, I don't have burp. I don't. So for me, Postman is my, copy to curl, paste, and import into Postman is a way I can manipulate and play around with something without having to have like the full gamut. But
collections.
Yes.
Curl. You can use curl.
Yeah, curl. Yeah, curl too.
I mean,
yeah, that's very true.
So, but anyways, I would say that's probably one thing I do differently is I actually try to establish an actual formal extension into a lot of the web applications I'm testing, and actually use that as a means of like, okay, getting more discovery about, oh, here's the flows, here's the endpoints. Can I manipulate these, these keys or whatnot, and see if I can get some leaking that way.
Yeah, and I know we're going a little over here. Networking Expo is next, so we have some time to be able to eat into everybody's kind of networking time, if everyone's okay with that in the audience. But yeah, Rhett, great to see you. Thanks for joining us, Ahmet. We had a good question here from Antonio. He's currently has been been a security consultant for 10 months. He writes a number of API integrations, which has sparked his interest in API security pen testing. Do you think it would be an easy shift to become a pen tester? If he's starting out as a developer, I'm sure Ryan is a developer. Ozgur, I don't know if you hack around on code, but I'm not a programmer. But I mean, more power to you, respect to you if you are a developer and you want to get into security and pen testing. I think being a developer and having those roots in development will probably make you more effective. And think differently. I'm a big believer that you don't have to be a developer to be a pen tester, but it does give you a different perspective. Being a developer, you're going to understand certain things a lot more than that I may have to go Google. Like Ryan and Ozgur, if I'm doing a pen test with just, hey, Ryan, what's this do? What's this mean? As a developer, whereas maybe if Ryan and Ozgur aren't with me, maybe I have to go Google it, but as a developer, you're probably going to know certain things that I may not know, that I'll have to go and learn on my own because I'm not a developer. Ryan, Ozgur, Jeremiah, do any of you want to chime in on that whole developer question?
I'll let Ryan go, or Ozgur. Yeah.
Or go, Ozgur?
I totally agree what just saying.
Yeah, okay. For sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would say is you definitely do not have to be a developer to do API testing. But if you are ever a developer in a position where you're having to build these APIs for a living, you will know the constraints that come with doing this. And as a result of that, you'll understand all the different elements that you have to, all the different restrictions that are not technology related. Why APIs go stale, why they appear to just be working and all of a sudden they just break. And so when you can look and understand that nuance of that culture, you actually will say, oh, I know what that is. I know what's going on here. I need to go and kind of go after this. Similar to the notion about versioning with Ozgur, right? And I mentioned it in my session yesterday. It's like there are a million APIs that are being launched on the regular, right? And if they don't get adopted, they don't get any attention. The engineering teams don't invest in them if they're not driving dollars and driving money. But chances are there's one or two customers and they can't turn them off. So what do they do with that attention? Well, they focus on all the other stuff that's making money. Well, those APIs that are sitting out there are ripe for the picking. So being able to find the things that are dead weight, old, unused, and you can actually see artifacts in that DevOps cycle to see how old these APIs are and be like, oh, okay, that gives me some ideas about how to go about it. And if you know the frameworks that they're built on, which again, getting that information and getting it leaked is not that difficult in most cases, you can actually make a lot of educated guesses about how to go about it.
Yeah, and my colleagues here, I've like I said, I have a huge amount of respect for developers. I wish I had that passion to develop. Like that's just amazing. To be able to sit there like, you know what? There's no tool to do this, so I'm just gonna write it myself. That's amazeballs. Like, yeah, hell yeah. Hashtag more please. But that's just not me. I just never got into wanting to write code, and I mean, like once upon a time took some Pascal classes and, or like used to like write bash scripts, but that's nowhere near, I'm sure, the level of my colleagues here. So I'll ask one more question because I really want to ask this and I'm sure the audience wants to know. Favorite engagements? What's your what is your favorite API breach, API hack, API engagement that each one of you have been involved in? Ryan, go.
I'm actually going to have to back out of this one. I don't have any professional experience that is like any engagements where I've been paid for. I will throw one thing out though for a tool for those who want to write scripts. JQ is your godsend savior for script writing. It's a command line JSON parser, and you basically can rip and sort and just manipulate JSON like no one's business. So I use that extensively when I'm writing custom scripts.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. What about, so not previous engagements? What is your ideal engagement? Tell me what your ideal engagement would be.
My ideal engagement would predominantly be something like a web application that has would be a web application that is designed from an enterprise perspective, like the ability to have B2B type customers where you could actually go in and the potential for you to gain access as the exponential ability to impact multiple companies. I know that those platforms exist. And again, that's where all the big money is, but also I think that's where we need to make sure that we're the most buttoned up and secure, because we look at supply chain backdoors, any kind of ways you can slip into an enterprise. Those are the easiest ones to be overlooked. So to me, that would be the one I would want to go after.
Yep, sorry, accidentally muted myself. Ozgur, blow the dust off that memory of all those bounties, man. What was your favorite hack of all time?
Okay, I can tell one more for the Ryan and one for myself.
Okay.
From the perspective of, like I said, there are two kinds of APIs that I am looking for, as I mentioned on my first talk. The first one was actually one application was using author APIs for their career websites. They just had a static web application like a HTML code. However, they were gathering the job application descriptions from another web application, such as like the greenhouse one, as you mentioned. So it was doing within an API key that there was nothing wrong when you check the regular requests. However, after I checked the greenhouse websites and the APIs, I saw that the API was over permissive. Yeah, like it was an admin's API key instead of just checking the job.
So too many privileges. The privileges were
so
too high.
It was seeming like a public API key at first. However, it was overly permissive API key, which you can gather all the job resumes, job applications details, the interviewers details, etc. Like everything in the job.
Oh my God!
Yeah, which was really a huge vulnerability. Afterwards, after I find this one, I looked the other applications that uses the same like the API key. So I see that it was actually a general problem in the APIs, the service, instead of the company. So the company who was using this API didn't configure the API badly, but the company that the API owner company was had the problem. So it's actually really good thing to check, like if you are using the third parties, the APIs, if you are more secure enough, there could be the problems in the APIs itself. I actually made a lot of research in the terms of the Google Maps APIs, and have also one public blog post about it, which is like all kind of different vulnerabilities in the Google Maps APIs, which are publicly disclosed, and Google didn't patch them at all because they are not thinking like the most important thing. However, it kind of creates a problem from the customer side. You can an attacker can overbill your quota or use your quota for themselves. So there are lots of problems exist in terms of the third-party APIs. On the other hand, when testing the web apps or the mobile apps, I mostly prefer the wildcard scopes, the big scopes, because if you have the limited scope, okay, that scope can be secure. However, your company is not secure just when that scope is secure. I mostly prefer that if like all the company assets is in scope, it's like the most productive tests that I am conducting. We have a huge client in Synack, for example, which mostly brings wildcard scores.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have lots of finding like the API wounds, most of the, for example, like the authentication bypasses or access violations, even if some lots of SQLIs on the backend in the APIs, within all black box testing. So my favorite engagements are like the huge wide scopes.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that in 2022, I still find so many APIs that don't have scopes applied. Like just no scopes at all, not even wildcard, just no scopes. It's like like the developer didn't even know that it was possible or something. You know, it's just crazy. Thank you for that, Ozgur.
And why did they do that in the beginning? That's what I'll also say. That pisses me off to the end of the degree.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's there. Why even go through the trouble of having that framework?
Yeah, exactly. Jeremiah, either ideal engagement or favorite past engagement.
Yeah, so this is there were two, as everybody was talking, that came to mind. One of them is in fact API related, but I'm not going to talk about that one. I apologize. The one I'm going to talk about is actually a physical penetration test that I got to engage in, just because it was just so fun, right? So you get to incorporate so many different techniques like social engineering and fooling people into thinking you're something you're not. So we were working on a past team that I was on with an organization that had a lot of satellite locations. The satellite location was had some fairly sensitive things they were working on, and we were going to conduct a physical penetration test on this location. So in preparation, we pull all satellite imagery, we pull imagery, and then we physically go to the site, check out what the regular routines are for people. We make a decision on how we're going to go ahead and approach this. And we do a perimeter walk around the location just to kind of check all the ingress and egress points. We found a door that was open into a stairwell, went in, and then there's multiple doors on the floors, which happened to be unlocked, so we could access the building at this point. At this particular juncture, we had stopped, and we went back to the front to see if we could then do some tailgating to see what we could access from the lobbies, whether there's network access points, or there are kiosks, or there are things that we could plug into from just a public accessing point, and we found several. From there, we were able to tailgate into the organization, walk around like we were employees there. We had a badge that allowed us to be there, but we weren't wearing it. We were hiding it, and we were all dressed up like they were so that we could emulate the environment. And we were able to walk around and utilize things like, bash bunnies. And, I enjoy the aspects when we can, anytime I can get out my hack RF and utilize my pineapple to intercept various Wi-Fi signals and conduct deauth attacks towards those. So that particular engagement, there was a lot more to it. I know we're running short on time, but that was probably my favorite engagement I've ever done.
That's amazing. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be as sophisticated as this ultra elite, Hacksword, API. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting on a uniform, social engineering, and walking into an office. I think mine, we'll close this out with mine. My favorite one was Ozgur. I know we're meeting for the first time. I don't know if you read my recent vulnerability research into hacking APIs. This is a toss-up for me. Like it's about evens with two, so I'll cheat and give two answers. First one was I found out that I could remotely start and stop any Ford on the road using the APIs, the Ford APIs. So they were just incredibly vulnerable. As long as you knew the VIN, you could start and stop the engine of any Ford car and lock and unlock the doors. Exactly. And it's not like, we all know that it's easy to get a VIN number, right? Like you go to a used car website and they've got the VINs right there on the used cars.
GiveMeTheVIN.com.
Yeah, I even used a used car in a cars lot on a website, a used car website, to test it. So yeah, it's they're not secret. So that would definitely be number one. And there's some great videos on my YouTube channel for those of you who are interested in watching that. Originally was for doing law enforcement vehicles, so I could remotely control law enforcement vehicles on the road, which obviously was a huge thing. And law enforcement brought me in to do this hack. So it was like
obviously a win.
Exactly. The second one would definitely have to be the most recent one, which is in healthcare. And the three of you might really like this one because of just how creative it is. It was healthcare FHIR APIs. For those of you who are familiar with FHIR APIs, fast healthcare interoperability resources. It's basically APIs in the healthcare sector, at least here in the United States, but also globally, Ozgur as well. But healthcare payers and healthcare providers are required now to provide healthcare patient data through these FHIR APIs. And I initially went after the APIs with the EHR companies and found that they were really locked down. Couldn't find anything wrong, couldn't find anything to exploit. And I actually found there was another layer of companies called data aggregators. And so what they were doing was the data aggregators were pulling data from the EHR vendors in their systems and storing them in a massive data lake and providing their own FHIR APIs to that data. And so after the data aggregators, and I've got a great talk. If Ozgur, you and Ryan and Jeremiah want to join me in that talk at the end of the day, I'm presenting my findings from this research. But I hacked and had access to over 4 million patient records.
PHI.
Exactly. And instead of going after the EHR vendors, which were locked down, I just went to the weakest link in the chain, which were the data aggregators who were pulling from the EHR vendors, and went after them instead. So, that's what I love. And I'm sure all three of you can attest with, to this. That's what I love about hacking is it is really kind of just trying to create, think creatively. Ozgur, I'm sure there have been several, bounties you've been on where you had to really think creatively and you had to quickly change course because something wasn't working and you needed to try something different. Ryan, same thing. Jeremiah, you got to constantly be thinking and be on your toes and coloring outside those lines to try and make that work. So that was definitely my favorite. But I apologize to the audience who we've kept over. Ryan, Ozgur, Jeremiah, thank you for staying over. This has been fun. I want to have all three of you guys on Night TV. Jeremiah, definitely want to come back to your show. Ozgur, it's great meeting you. I always like to have really good, strong friends in API and API hacking. So definitely glad to meet you. You guys take care of yourselves, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, Ryan. Bye, Ozgur. Bye, Jeremiah. Bye, everyone. All right, audience. Thank you. Join us for the remaining sessions after the networking and break session. And we've got some awesome presentations coming up along with some other workshops and panels. So definitely join us, and we will see you after the break.